Never tell a student. Well, I'm going to talk today about teaching intervals and landmarks. First of all, if I have a student that's been working with me for a while and I have done intentional teaching and correction using those concepts, then I may very well give them a note name or an interval, say that's a fifth instead of a sixth. If it's a transfer student, I will, even if their reading level is late elementary or intermediate, I may still need to be talking to them about intervals and landmarks. So the way I deal with mistakes is probably similar to the way I deal with mistakes when a beginner makes a mistake. Now, there are two ways to teach intervals and landmarks. One is intentional, and that is you're going to I use these cards right here all the time. Here are the first three landmarks, and then the following three landmarks, and then these. I'll take a picture and put these in the comments. You're welcome to make copies and use them. And the other is this interval sheet. These are thirds, fifths, and sevenths, line to line or space to space. It makes it easy to distinguish a fourth from a fifth or a fifth from a sixth, because one is a line to a line and one is not. So let's say we're at this beginning piece here, and there's an opening interval of a fourth. Now in this book, that is the new concept in this Folk Tunes book 1. But let's say they made a mistake right here. So there are a couple of ways of responding to that. Number one is you can just say, no dear, it's this note. Or you can say, no dear, it's a C. Or you can say, no dear, it's a C and that's a fourth. Increasingly, you're moving toward interval teaching. But I have a saying, never tell a student, I never tell a student something I can lead them to discover by asking a question. So let me modify that just a bit. I never tell a student a note name when I can ask a question that will lead them to discover the landmark or the interval. The landmark or the interval. Now, there are two ways to address this one. Obviously, the second note is landmark C. So you could talk about, the second note is a landmark. But the other would be an interval of a fourth. So what I would say is, from how far is it from here to here? That's my question. And then if they kind of stumble, then you could say, well, is it a third or a fifth? And then it gives you a chance to review thirds, fifths, and sevenths are line to line, space to space, because yes, they're already learning that in book 1. And then they can answer the question for themselves. And that is how most of the landmark and interval teaching happens. It's when they make a mistake and the way we respond. And I'll just mention these books here. I have 3 books that all use folk tunes. I was thinking this morning, I guess the approach is similar to Francis Clark, the intervals, and then beginning on pieces that begin on the landmarks, and then pieces that begin a second above the landmark, and a second below the landmark, and a third from the landmark, and then introducing intervals of fourths and fifths. The difference here is that these are all folk tunes, existing beautiful melodies from around the world. And I have put these, they're only on Top Music Marketplace, and they're only a digital download, but I made them, it's almost the price of a book. And with it, you get the permission to make copies, and you can just make a copy and copy put it in a notebook and put the front cover on something like this and just loan them to your students time and time again. I will take a picture of these and put these on my in my comments, and you're welcome to save those photos and copy those down and use them if you want. So, never tell a student the name of a note when you can ask a question that leads them to discover the interval or the landmark.